Now that some time passed by since Voxtur's news, Colin had some time to do some research, to make some phone calls. So I'm bringing him on again to share what he learned with us. Thanks, Colin, again.
Okay, happy to do it. How are you?
I'm okay. So what did you learn from your research, from your calls with your contacts?
Well, as you can imagine, something of this. So it's funny, there was an article in the Globe and Mail that you referred to it, March 3rd. I didn't see that. It probably only posted on the digital arm of the Globe and Mail. And even with that, it says, they can't take on new clients. As I understand it, it's a bit more involved than that. My conversation with different accounting pros across the spectrum is that, there's quite a few companies in the lurch right now looking for auditors. And it may not even just be purely audit. It might be, forget all the 4 levels there are, but, engagement letter or so on and so forth. So there's a lot of noise in the accounting world. This has made a big brouhaha. And so there are a number of companies in the same situation, maybe not as many who are as close to an audit as Voxtur is. I mean, we're under 30 days out from a deadline. And going back to it, I still appreciate the fact that they looked for a management cease trade order. And ultimately, it means that the CEO and CFO can't trade. So there's a lot of noise in the accounting world. This is not just isolated to Voxtur. As I understand it, it's not just, Markham's a well-respected audit firm in the U.S. The question is whether or not they had all the right licensing and registration requirements done in Canada. And there's, obviously when you come across the border, there's different criteria for different types of risks and so on and so forth. So I just don't know. I don't think it's a competency thing per se, but I think it was a function of they may not have had the right registration and licensing as they came across the border. So, from my mind's eye, there's going to be a lot of noise. Well, there already is a lot of noise. There's all these companies, reaching out throughout the accounting sphere in Canada, trying to solve their problems. So it's made a lot of noise amongst the contacts that I've spoken to. And, because of some of the structural issues with Markham in terms of the problems that they had, there wasn't really a way of solving the problem with Markham. So now, Voxtur and all these other clients now are scrambling to find a solution. My suspicion is that, a lot of these companies are going to throw a lot of resources at it to solve whatever problems that these companies are experiencing. So it is a noisy problem, bigger noise than you might hear out in the public. Not all these companies have to press release. Even that Sciata Mobile, which is a public company, they just filed a 6K, and that was their public sort of disclosure. They didn't necessarily have to press release it. So it is a bigger deal. I am not pinning any money on this. I am not making any declarations, but I hope that Voxtur can get ahead of this, and maybe I doubt they'll hit the target date of May 1st, but I don't suspect it'll be some exceptionally long period after. There's a number of people in this boat, so I think there's going to be a fairly open arms for these companies trying to help them sort this out. My suspicion also is that they're going to charge for it. So I think there's going to be money made by a bunch of different accounting firms sorting this scramble out. Quite frankly, I suspect Markham's going to have to pay for this mess up some way or the other as well. This is really just sincerely not a Voxtur problem. And so, and, you've got, a stock down 15 points in a single day because of this. I can assure you there's probably people looking to extract their pound of flesh from someone on this. So, and the volume today on Voxtur. What was the final Voxtur?
Do you mean that like we could see some kind of class action lawsuit against the accounting firm?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying I would not be surprised if I saw someone trying to extract a pound of flesh out of somebody for this. And this is a colossally big problem for a large number of people. Voxtur traded 10.6 million shares today. I don't know if that's the biggest share traded day, but it's up there. It's up there in the last 2-3 years. So a lot of bad noise. I don't know of anybody, like 99% of the time when I shouldn't say 99, a large number of times out of 100, if a auditor resigns, it's because of something the client has done. As I said this morning when I chatted with you, I've never experienced something like this. So I've seen, luckily for me, not having auditors resign because the client did something badly. Actually, that's not entirely true. I have seen that before on a client that I had already sold out of, but on an investment that I already sold out of. But, that's because they lose faith in the client. They lose faith in the processes. They lose faith in the methodologies of the company and the integrity of the company. I have seen that. And then the company's just decimated. But that's the vast majority of why people think, if an auditor resigns, that this is what's happening. That is simply not the case. I think the letter that was written by Voxtur was, again, not the best. I don't know what the ramifications are. It's too bad that they did not make mention of the CPAB issues that Macrom were dealing with, because it looks like in the absence of a problem with the auditor, that it looks like a problem with the client. And that's just simply not the case. So my hope, again, is that there's some sort of further communication that comes out of Voxtur to clarify this. But I can assure you that, my calls to different areas in the audit world, that this has had a massive impact on a significant number of companies. We're not the only one. But I do applaud Voxtur for at least being quick, forthcoming, doing the management cease trade order from that perspective. And I do hope that they increase their communication, but there are a ton, I shouldn't say a ton, there are not an insignificant number of companies, and I think anything over 10, by the way, is a significant issue,
Can
that are
you
dealing with this problem.
can you explain in basic terms the order, the restriction for from the management to trade, what it is, and why do you think it's important?
So when management applies for, so there's two ways of dealing with the world. Things get applied to you, or things by your request. So for example, with Acuity ads, let's talk Acuity ads, because of the Silicon Valley Bank thing. Again, Silicon Valley Bank had a problem. Now, legitimately, it had a massive impact on Acuity ads. They had $55 million there. So it was going to have US. It was going to have a material impact on Acuity ads. So Acuity ads was scrambling to get their stock cease traded because there was asymmetry of information out in the wild. So some people knew that Acuity ads had their banking with Silicon Valley Bank, and so they went out to get a cease trade order so that it shut or halt on their stock. It's just called a halt. In this instance, with Voxtur, what they're doing is they're requesting what's called an MCTO, management cease trade order. A CTO is just a cease trade order, aka a halt. In this instance, they're asking it just for management. I believe when it's done that way, it's only the CEO and the CTO who are banned. It may go further. I'm not an expert in that space, but it means that the CEO and the CFO cannot trade their shares anymore, locks them up. That happens many times where it's enforced because management has done something bad. They missed a filing deadline, they missed a something deadline, and then the exchange will come in and impose a cease trade order, either on the stock as a whole or simply on management. 90% of the time, what happens with a lot of these management cease trade orders is the management has done something really stupid, and they're saying, we're not going to punish the shareholders for this, but we will punish management because they're the ones who have caused this problem. So by Voxtur putting in their press release that they've voluntarily requested a management cease trade order, that is saying to them, look, we're worried that we're going to miss a deadline. We haven't missed a deadline. They're a month out. We haven't missed a deadline. We're asking for the imposition of this ahead of time to show to the marketplace that we're behaving in the best interest of everybody and that we're not trying to take advantage of it, or that we haven't screwed something up. So we don't want to impose, we're requesting it. And so that, in my mind, shows good faith from the management of Voxtur.
Okay, I see. Anything else that you want to share on what you learned?
At the end of the day, what I learned is also rumor and this and that. It's just that I heard it from multiple venues, from multiple people, from not necessarily Voxtur stuff, just, what noise is happening out there because of this Markham issue, and because of this Markham LLP issue. There's noise all across the spectrum of accounting firms in Canada. And so it's just super loud. This problem is super loud. There's a lot of people talking about it. I didn't ask about Voxtur per se. I was asking about, what's the impact? Who else is in this? And there's not an insignificant number of other people. And then, just getting color on how do they solve this? What are how many people, there's people always looking for clients. It's just that many times you like to bring on your clients one at a time, not 10, 15 at a time. So I suspect that Voxtur is a very well-connected board of directors, very well-connected senior executives of, politics and banks, So I suspect that with their Rolodex, they're able to get in front of the line when it comes to getting coverage or getting an accounting firm to step up and get to the front of the line as fast as possible. So that's so I suspect that the smaller the company with fewer resources, they're going to have bigger problems. But I'm hopeful that a company like Voxtur. Now, this is me speculating. Look at who's on the board. The former vice chairman of the Bank of Montreal, Gary's no slouch. Mike Harris is there. These are not insignificant individuals. So I suspect with all of their connections and clout that they're going to be able to help clear this up. Whether they get this done on May 1st, if they get this done on May 1st, fucking statue should be erected for these guys. But I'm hopeful that we're going to get some news on how they're rectifying this soon, and I'm hopeful that I feel bad for a lot of these other companies that are getting their teeth knocked in. Like this is not a making of the companies. This is a making of an audit firm, and it's an inelegant thing to just stop the processes mid-stride while you're dealing with this stuff. So, listen, I'm not involved in that stuff. I have no expertise in that stuff, but this is a very abrupt thing that hit a large number of clients. And again, for me, large numbers over 10. And, now they got to go scrambling about finding audit firms. And as I'd said in a previous interview you and I had had, there's a dearth of bandwidth for these audit firms of late. Like everything's tight. It's hard for these guys. They're not getting their feet in for the junior auditors. It's a tough slog right now for these guys. So for these firms. So this is not, happening in an environment where, there's a whole bunch of hungry audit firms out there starving for business. This is a whole bunch of audit firms stuffed to the brim, like in that Monty Python thing, I couldn't eat another bite. They're so stuffed, they don't know how to deal with all this business. So this is happening in that environment, not something where there's a whole bunch of hungry audit firms ready for work with a ton of bandwidth. So this is not happening in the most auspicious time for people looking for audit firms.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you for sharing what you learned today.
Thanks. Talk to you, Maurice. Bye-bye.